Ow. I'm gonna really...
Hey, we're back with this week's comics.
Yes, we are starting.
We're starting with two really big ones.
Yes, we have all 14. Should I show them?
Yeah.
We have Superman.
But the one we're both really excited for is...
Voodoo! In fact, just looking at the cover makes me want to go. Alright, so, Superman, really big thing, so naturally, we're looking at Voodoo first.
Yep.
Voodoo, #1. Now, Voodoo is also a carryover from the Wildstorm universe. Also, at least I think she is. Not a character who I know very much about. She's a lesbian, mixed-race character, something. I know in an interview, DC was talking about how they're diversifying their cast, and now they've got a mixed-race lesbian on the roster. Well, we will get to that. So naturally, we're really progressiving things up. And what is the plot of this book?
In a word, boobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Stripper, the book.
This is more boob heavy than
Catwoman.
Yeah.
More than Catwoman and Red Hood and the Outlaws put together.
This whole comic takes place in a strip club.
Yes. And it is either things happening with strippers in the background, focusing on the strippers, or just watching people strip.
Yeah.
I am serious. And I think that first page really just...
Really
just encapsulates the plot of this entire...
There are 3 pages just with a bunch of strippers talking about being strippers.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, you could argue... But the thing is, at least... Alright. The real plot of this book, I suppose, we should get into before we start criticizing it.
Okay, I'll do it.
Actually, I was going to do it.
I want to do it.
Alright, you can do it.
Okay, so, Agents Mulder and Scully are looking for or around the strip club because there's been some suspicious activity regarding
Voodoo.
regarding these boobs over here. These boobs are very suspicious.
Yes.
So Mulder and Scully are there to investigate.
Do we want to show Mulder and Scully to them?
Sure.
And
it isn't really Mulder and Scully.
It
might as well be.
It's pretty much Mulder and Scully. Where was that? It's clearly just a slightly off-model Mulder and Scully.
Although Mulder does look a bit like
a bit Cyclops.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're there to investigate. Early on, Scully gets pissed off because all Mulder wants to do is look at breasts, which is, if you watch the X-Files, not very far off.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes back to their hotel room while Mulder goes in to investigate further. And there may be a bit of an underwhelming surprise at the end, or a hilariously underwhelming surprise at the end.
Well, it's hilarious. I thought it was.
But it's a spoiler, so let's not say what it is.
It's hilarious.
You'll have to waste $3 on a book of strippers in order to get to it.
Or, you know.
Anyway. I think we've gotten really good at summarizing this.
Yep.
Impressions of the book.
Well,
story-wise, first specifically.
It's just a strip club. I mean, the story is that Mulder and Scully are at a strip club.
They have an entire page with 5 panels of just Voodoo stripping. This is the second page, so that makes 2 consecutive pages of nothing but Voodoo stripping. And you could see there's dialogue. You might think the dialogue is actually contributing to the plot. It's not.
The dialogue is, here's a stripper, you like strippers.
Pretty much. Then we've got 4 panels of a little bit of plot in which they talk about how they're watching a stripper, and then more panels of just 3 different panels of the stripper.
No, we're watching someone else watching a stripper.
We are watching someone watch a stripper.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess that there are some... Oh, I will say Scully does kick some ass in a kind of contrived and boring fight sequence.
Yep, outside of the strip club.
Which lasts 2 pages of strippers.
Mm-hmm.
That is 2 pages out of a book of nothing else but strippers. And I'm not saying that I think strippers are bad or that you can't have books about strippers.
But this is not a good one.
I'm saying the plot can't be strippers.
That's a noun, not a plot.
Yeah. It's a plural noun, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it a good idea for a book.
A plot at least has to be a verb, right? Like running. That could be a plot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think a plot could be a noun, like
Aliens.
Aliens. I was actually just thinking Aliens. He must have read my mind.
X-Files.
X-Files, of course.
But
X-Files could be a plot.
Yeah, but this is not a plot. This is not a story. These are not characters. These are just boobs.
Anyway, I guess there are some real questions, because this is the most underwhelming cover I've ever seen. Probably. And she's just got this blank expression on her face. But I guess, and also, the tagline for the book, and also the first page of this, the dialogue is, "Who is she? Where did she come from? What secrets does she hide?" And we don't find out in this entire book.
No.
Who is Voodoo? What's her character? What's she after? What's she like? What's her personality like? What are her goals? What problems is she facing?
What is she?
We don't know.
No.
The closest we come is getting a hint that she may or may not be the Martian Manhunter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Seriously, they don't tell us anything about her. She barely even has any dialogue.
No.
Oh,
and all her and all the words that she does say is basically, "Hey, I'm a stripper."
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And visually, the art style, I have a couple of things I want to say about it.
You go ahead.
You sure you don't want to?
Well, there's a lot of boobs.
Yeah.
That's.
But even the style is just like, we've got, I don't know, I think Grifter might have been a little bit like this too, but we've got kind of this really flat, it's not I say flat when we're looking at so many breasts, but no matter how large the breasts get, it's this really flat style without very much...
It's soulless.
It's soulless. I mean, not only do we have no depth or shading or action or movement, I mean, because the only movement is strippers dancing, so there's really nothing for us to see, but overall, it is just these really, not sketchy, but just kind of frozen, lifeless images of sort of soft, pale-skinned breasts.
Yeah,
and that is what we get throughout this entire thing. Oh, also, the cover of the page, of the book, if you look, she has that expression throughout this entire comic. She does not change her expression. Alright, let me try to find the first time we actually really look at her.
There.
Like, there. Or, there. Look, we get different angles of a blank expression.
It's just terrible.
And I think there might have been one other thing. Oh, also, one thing that I did notice, which I guess isn't a terrible touch, she reminds me, especially like in this panel here, she looks an incredible amount, to me, like Esmeralda from Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Not that this is a word of approval for that movie, but that is who she reminds me of. And Esmeralda is kind of a stripper.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, at least that's an interesting touch. I would say she's not badly drawn, necessarily.
She's pretty.
Yeah,
but
I mean...
it's shallow.
Yeah.
The art is as soulless as the rest of the book.
And also, the best part is that, I'm not going to give away what happens at the end, but it's suggested that we're not even going to be returning to the strip club.
No.
So we have an entire issue of nothing but a strip club, and even showing us the strip club isn't even setting up for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, where on a letter scale would you put this?
F.
I would put this at an F+.
Because of Mulder and Scully?
The plus, because of Mulder and Scully, Scully is vaguely interesting, she at least resembles a character, and also because the artwork, while I don't think it really contributes anything, isn't really bad, it just is kind of there and not moving anything forward. It's decent to look at. I mean, if you want a book of nothing but strippers, I'm not going to say don't buy this.
But we recommend porn. Well, it's like pick up a Playboy if that's what you're into, you know?
Playboy. People don't read that anymore, do they?
Well, go on the internet. Just look up XXX.
Actually, I think go to Playboy. Playboy could probably offer some interesting... and I'm sure there are porno comics out there that...
yeah, but not...
that probably have better plots than this.
Mm-hmm.
But
this
yeah.
really is just...
So yeah. I mean, I guess the art, is competent, so I'm not going to give it a, complete F, but F+, it's a very shaky plus.
Don't recommend it.
Yeah. Let's move on to something completely different. And now for something completely different, Superman.
Yep.
I love this cover.
This is a good cover. This is a good comic. I really like this comic.
I have things I like about it and things that I dislike about it, but we will get to that. So, in case anyone is uninitiated, who is Superman?
Superman is an alien from the planet Krypton, crashed into Kansas, was raised by human parents, is now the defender of truth, justice, and the American way.
Yes. And,
just overall good guy.
And he has taken to putting his underwear on the inside.
Yep.
So no.
But he still wears a belt, even though it looks like a one-piece suit.
Yeah, it's strange. I have to wonder what that belt is holding up. Maybe his pants, I guess? But they don't go through. It doesn't go through.
Why does he even need a belt? He's not like Batman. He doesn't need a utility belt or anything. But it looks like it has pouches. Enough of this. Enough of that. And why does why does it look like he's wearing so much armor when he's whatever.
Maybe it's to protect the suit. We will solve the mystery of Superman's fashionable choices some other time. The book itself. Do you want to talk about the story, or should I?
I will. So, the Daily Planet, which is one of the world's most respected newspapers, pretty much the DC equivalent of the New York Times, is getting bought by Rupert Murdoch and the Fox Network and News Corp. And because, well, it's a tough time for print nowadays with all the internet and all that. And Superman fights a giant flame.
Pretty much. It's odd because the entire first half of it is a lot of it. It's like a eulogy for the old Daily Planet and this giant ceremony where they're ushering in the new Daily Planet and its new owners because it's been bought out by
Rupert Murdoch.
Essentially Rupert Murdoch.
It's black Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah, black, non-Australian Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah.
But it's essentially the Daily Planet has gone from being this independent newspaper to part of a conglomerate, and Clark is pissed about it.
Because it's a comic about journalistic integrity.
It's essentially Superman fighting like the corrupt forces that may be at play in the corporate structure of the media. And
the whole thing is a bit funny because, of course, DC Comics is owned by
Time Warner.
Warner.
One of the large. They're actually a larger media conglomerate than No,
they are the largest media conglomerate in the world. I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was Viacom.
No, it's Time Warner.
Well, they are one of the largest. They don't have the highest rated cable news network.
No, but I think they just own more shit.
Yeah, they are one of the largest media companies in the world. But beyond that, if we don't look at this as some sort of a smear campaign by Ted Turner against the implicit Fox News, and there's like this Bill O'Reilly guy who gets put. Well, no one is explicitly political in any nature, so arguably this could be some sort of a corrupt newspaper that has some other political bias.
But the Daily Planet is pro-Superman.
They're anti-Superman, although they do mention that this was part of a older editorial regime, or not editorial, but like an old CEO who was corrupt. They mention wiretaps. Like, I have to wonder if this was like written before or after the giant
the
Rupert Murdoch
scandal.
What was the newspaper? Was it the Daily Mail? Not the Daily Mail.
Was it the Globe?
Wasn't the Globe.
Wasn't the Globe?
Was it News of the World?
News of the World.
There we go.
Either way, a lot of parallels that one could draw. A lot of fun can be had.
Yeah, but that is, I will say, only the first half of the comic. The second half is a lot better.
Yeah.
This is the first time that, not that I thought Action Comics was necessarily bad. I have my own thoughts on that. But this is the first time that I feel like I'm really watching Superman in action in a comic book in a long time. Just Superman being Superman, fighting a giant monster, trying to...
defending Metropolis.
Yeah, trying to attack Metropolis. And there may be a few details about the monster that we're not going to get into, but it's a giant fire monster.
Yeah.
It's Superman versus fire. He is literally fighting fire, but not with fire. No. So, and it seems like an impossible task, but it's a job for Superman, and Superman goes and does that. And what I love is that while we have this, it's paralleled with the news coverage of
Superman fighting them. So you get Clark Kent's account. It's like you get these all intertwining narratives of the same thing happening. You get the comic book and you get the visuals of Superman actually fighting it. You get Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen documenting it with news cameras and helicopters and stuff, trying to capture Superman in the act of doing it. You get Clark Kent's article of Superman doing this. So you have all these parallel running accounts of how Superman is fighting this giant fire.
And also we see what goes on behind the scenes, like in the newsroom as this is happening.
So there's a lot going on.
Yet
it's interesting. Like, it all fits. Like, you don't really get lost.
I feel like the Daily Planet is the protagonist of this
Mhm.
book. So anyway, your
It is
thoughts.
journalism is the book.
Your thoughts on this?
I liked it.
You liked it.
I liked it. I liked Superman. I like the fight because even though Superman is Superman, it does feel like he's having a bit of trouble. It's not that he's in any lethal danger, but it's more like it's a puzzle trying to figure out how Superman is going to beat this giant fire.
Yeah, I mean that's what I always say about Superman. That you could argue that Superman is like incredibly overpowered compared to someone like, let's say, Batman. I wouldn't say he's the most overpowered hero in the DC universe. I would give that award to the Flash, but or perhaps Martian Manhunter. But for now, we do have this whole thing with Superman. He's so super strong. How do you show him in an interesting situation? The point is, Superman doesn't fight criminals per se, so much as he saves Metropolis.
Yeah.
That when Superman is fighting something,
He's defending.
He's defending the fate of the entire city, maybe even the entire world, is always resting on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to see, like, even this something so simple is convincingly presenting a challenge for Superman.
Yeah.
As I think most good things should. I don't subscribe to the idea that the best Superman stories are the ones that are about other people or that it's about, like, exploring. I think that Superman, this is what he does. He saves Metropolis, and he does I think he has a really good showdown with the giant fire monster here.
It's a very heroic story. Like, this whole comic, very heroic, very... it plays the whole hero thing straight. It isn't like Batman where he's gritty or dark. It isn't like... something trying to deconstruct him being a hero. It's just him saving people and saving things, and people looking and wondering and saying, "Oh, look, it's Superman saving that thing."
Yet at the same time, Superman, I wouldn't say his character is necessarily the main focus of this. I would say it's more on what he does in this comic.
And it's more the Daily Planet covering what he does.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of like character development and story, it follows more of a Daily Planet. And also the thing is, Clark doesn't like the idea of the Daily Planet being bought out. My only criticism is that I think if we haven't shown any pages, this is... I could show from one of the really early pages.
May I say it? To repeat something I said in our Justice League review, there are a lot of words in this comic.
It has words.
It has words,
yes. But I'm not going to say it's too wordy. That's one page. I mean, I could turn to a random
You can
other
turn
page.
to any page, and there's a lot of words.
It's not that it's necessarily too wordy, because it's also just... Not only are there a lot of words per page, but there's a lot of panels per page, so really a lot happens in this.
It's one of the busiest comics.
I wouldn't necessarily just say busiest, but it's one of the longest.
Yeah.
It has the most content. It's not cluttered necessarily, but I think that toward the beginning, when we're getting like a lot of exposition of what's happening with the Daily Planet, although it is taking the time to show us this from different people's perspectives, it does seem to drag for me. That I think, especially when you compare the pacing of Superman actually fighting, the action scene, which is very dialogue heavy for an action scene,
very well scripted.
Yeah, I think that works really well, but I think that when we actually get the first part, it seems just a bit, not necessarily cluttered, but it seems a bit excessive for me. So that's one thing that's kind of holding back my opinion. And visually, I was just looking. We talked about that structure, but the art style.
One more thing I wanted to say about the writing before we get into the art.
Yes.
There are a lot of kind of throwbacks to Superman's history and like the way that Superman is described.
Just a lot of catchphrases.
We get a lot of catchphrases. In the first page, we see "Truth, Justice, in the American Way." Throughout the comic, we see look up in the sky.
Did they?
Yeah, someone said like look up in the sky. There's Superman.
At one point, Jimmy Olsen's talking to someone, and he's like, "Wow, Superman, such and such and such." And then the other guy's like, "Yeah, I remember back when he could only leap tall buildings in a single bound."
Yeah, so you get a lot of like this, just a lot of these throwbacks, old catchphrases.
This looks like a job for Superman.
Yeah,
it's like they have to remind you you're reading a Superman comic.
I know, but it's I like it.
It's also great because they take it seriously.
It's all
and it fits. It doesn't seem stupid
because it is Superman. It fits.
Yeah,
it is the superhero.
It's not. It's not as experimental or voyaging into less familiar territory as action comics.
And it isn't. And it doesn't really get corny. It's just like, that's what they used to say about Superman, and they're saying it again.
It's probably the safe Superman story.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the artwork, I mean, this page here specifically has a little element that... Can we get this into focus? Or
the camera's just out of focus, so...
Here's one... It's a big shot, so I just figured I would... You were saying something about light earlier. And
Was I?
yeah, when you were reading it. Oh, and here's a...
Oh, yeah, it's a very bright comic. There's a lot of... the whole thing takes place at night, but there are a lot of different light sources. There are the lights from the building, there's the lights from the giant fire monster. There's a... It's just, even though it is taking place at night, kind of more of a Batman atmosphere, it still looks decidedly Superman because everything is so bright and lit up.
I would say it's bright yet dark at the same time.
Yeah.
Things that have light, like buildings, like the new Daily Planet building. There's a new Daily Planet building. They tear it down on the first page. But, the old one, they tear it. But, in addition to having just these really bright things like the lights and the fire monster, everything else is really dark. It's odd because all of the colors that we use on everything are really dark and subdued.
Like, that's a good panel to show.
Yeah.
Or see all the lights of the city, but it's still decidedly nighttime looking.
Yeah, and just overall, you have a lot of... At times, it almost looks smudgy, because you'll have things like shadow on the wall will be, like, over here. You get sort of these dashes and a crosshatch making a grid or something. It's not just... It's odd because when I show it on the thing, it doesn't even necessarily look like shadow. But,
it looks comic booky, though.
It is comic booky, but what I'm saying is it does, with shading, it goes really into not just... It's not we have...
It's not natural.
It's not we have things on their shadows. It's that you have, like, these smears and these smudges and these crosshatches, and I think it makes things look a bit... it might overdo it a little bit.
Maybe.
But it also...
Like the face of the wrong... not wrong way.
Yeah, like, oh, could we show, like, just,
that's a good
Clark's face here? Like,
yeah.
You see that? He looks a little bit dirty, almost. But, and overall, it doesn't, I don't think it's distracting or anything. I think it does, it makes it just feel very, I'm not going to say intense, but it does seem kind of grim, almost. But I think that also fits the tone of the story, that we're not, we're not looking at necessarily a incredibly bright and triumphant story. It's the superhero story, it follows that model, as you said, but also, both visually, especially visually, and in terms of writing, it has that has a very serious tone to it, and that quality I think is reflected in the artwork pretty well. So,
letter scale time?
I'm thinking one thing I will say. I don't want to give anything away, but I think this is already kind of common knowledge. The business of I mentioned that in the Catwoman review last week. What really annoyed me was that Batman no longer knows. That Catwoman no longer knows Batman's secret identity, that their relationship has been completely scaled back to the point where it becomes almost completely meaningless. Yeah, because I've heard people talking about this already, so I don't think I'm necessarily spoiling anything, but we've also backtracked
before Lois
a considerable
and Superman
distance with the relationship between Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing with Midnighter and Apollo. So it's odd, for some reason, they think, like, we have these love stories, so we need to retell them. I'm not terribly happy with that. But I wouldn't say that's a major part of this comic, considering everything else. It's just kind of tacked on at the end.
DC is doing the whole turning relationship back thing way better than Marvel did with Spider-Man.
Yeah,
One New Day.
I didn't read that, so I'm not going to comment.
Don't read One New Day. One More Day. New one. Whatever it is. Don't read it. One More Day.
Now I'm trying to remember what it's called. I don't think it's... Is it One More Day?
I think it's One More Day. I don't know.
I'm thinking like Bright New Day now, but that's not something.
No, whatever.
Brand New Day.
Whatever it is, don't. No.
I've heard bad things about it too. But so letter scale, where would you put this?
A-.
A-.
I have an A-. I really enjoyed the comic. It plays it all straight, but it fits the character. Superman is really cool in this. I like the big fight scene. I like all the different narratives telling the same thing, but from different perspectives. But it is a bit talky in the beginning, not much going on, but the action scene, I think, more than makes up for it.
Yeah, you
so,
know...
A-.
Yeah, it's odd, because it feels a bit heavy and cluttered, but at the same time, it's just a really long book. I'm also going to give it an A-. I think that with everything that happens in this, and all of the dialogue we have, and all of the panels showing everything, this is almost... It feels 3 times as long as Voodoo.
Yeah.
It feels 3 times as long as Justice League 1.
And feels, 7 times as deep as Voodoo, by the way.
Yeah. It feels, well, I don't know, because 0 times anything is 0.
Good point.
Yeah, so it's longer, and there's, let me say that again. There's a lot more going on, and it's much more compacted and much denser, but there's also content. It's not...
interesting. It doesn't, except for a little in the beginning, it doesn't feel like you're just being thrown useless information.
Yeah, so it's very thorough, I would say. So I would also give it an A-, because I think the thoroughness does also kind of impact the pacing when you transition from the first part to the second part. So, what are we looking at in our next video?
I think we'll decide that off camera.
We will decide that off camera.
See you in the next video.
Ooh, a mystery.